Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between healthy cells and cancer cells and how they function differently. Well, there are many differences, but one in particular is how they produce energy. So we actually look upon cancer as a metabolic dysfunction where we shift energy production from using oxygen, where we use oxygen to produce energy in the mitochondria. Mitochondria is our little kind of energy factories within the cell, and we need that in order to be able to repair DNA, to detoxify, to repair what's going on in the tissue. It also carries it holds the cell death switch. So the mitochondria controls whether a cell is supposed to live. It evaluates to see is the genetic okay enough to be able to fix, or has it gone beyond repair and now we need to shut this cell down, break down the material, and we will recycle the material. So the cancer cell bypasses the mitochondria because that's where the cell death switch is, and it wants to be immortal. Produces energy in a different way. It's a fermentation process that doesn't need oxygen in order to be able to produce energy. It's a fermentation where it ferments sugar. And that's why it's so important to be on a low glycemic diet, while you're battling cancer, because that is the fuel for cancer. That's what it needs in order to be able to ferment. Obviously, you got to stay away from the sugar, so that way you want to starve the cancer. You don't want to give it all it needs to be able to thrive. So you want to keep a low glycemic diet, but then you can also bring in two powerful IV tools. One is called DCA, dichloroacetate, and we can introduce that intravenously. And what it does is that it blocks that pathway that the cancer use in order to be able to produce energy from that fermentation of sugar. And then we combine that with another IV called Poly MVA. It's a substance that it's in itself is just very unique. It has things like the alpha lipoic acid and different minerals, different vitamins, but it's in a cage-like structure, and it becomes a molecule in itself, but it's really powerful in turning on the mitochondria and in helping the mitochondria to start to produce energy. Obviously, if the mitochondria is getting healthy, it's able to trigger that cell death. Or if the cell is viable, if it is fixable, then by supporting the mitochondrial activity, then we can turn that cell away from a cancer process towards a healthy process. And the poly MVA will, so now you're blocking with DCA, so that's why they work so well together. You're blocking the fermentation process, the energy production through that fermentation process, and at the same time driving then energy through the mitochondria, so that you can either then trigger the cell death switch of it or make it repair. The thing with the fermentation process, why it's so important to block that, is that as a byproduct from that, it produces a substance called lactate. And what the lactate does, it goes outside of the cell and it promotes metastases. It makes the environment around itself very acidic. So it promotes a tumor microenvironment that is supportive of more cancer in that area. So by blocking that fermentation process, you interfere with the release of the lactate and that tumor microenvironment around that tumor cell, so that you can allow the healthy cells in that environment to be able to stay strong and not become cancerous, and also keep that environment more alkaline, because the cancer like that acidic environment to neutralize the immune system activity, to neutralize a lot of the immune protective aspects in that environment. So that's why the poly MVA IV and DCA IV is such a powerful 1-2 punch. And that is kind of working on what's called the Warburg effect.